also on radio, and also in blogging, and also in media training, and
We need to
also,
stop here, John. We need to
yeah.
stop here with the introduction. People will say I work too much, and it's really I'm not. Okay.
Okay, all right. Well, you're not working, but and also you're cycling. We're about to get to your
Oh
hobbies.
God. Okay. All right.
Okay,
Okay.
Luchan, good to see you.
Yes.
Are you in Bucharest as well?
Yeah. I'm in Bucharest. Yes.
Okay, so why don't you give us the state of play? Here we are, 48 hours before the election. Where do we stand?
Well, there's 24 hours of madness, pure madness. And we're talking about Simeon going to France, going to some sort of nationalist Marine Le Pen friendly TV, and bragging about him not being interested in going to l'Elysée, meeting Macron, calling Macron a dictator, calling France a dictatorship akin to Iran. And that was a scandal in Romania. That was super, super upsetting for most people. I'm not so sure about people who actually plan to vote for Simeon, but the rest of Romania was super scandalized because, France is very important for us right now. It's about, well, not the only, but it's a very strong pillar of security that we are right now considering not replacing the United States force, but having a second adult at
Like,
the table, let's say. So it
yeah.
was scandalous. But on the other hand, we have good figures in Moldova. I'm talking about the vote.
You say we, who are you referring to?
We, Romania, I'm not taking any sides here.
Yeah,
Okay, I'm trying to be neutral, even though I have an opinion. I'm going to vote for
yeah, of
one
course.
candidate, but Romania is scoring very well in presence. We have lots of people voting right now in the Republic of Moldova. As you know, we gave Romanian citizenship to at least 1 mil, as far as I know, of citizens of Republic of Moldova who are able to vote. And since they're considered diaspora, they're starting voting today, tomorrow, and Sunday. Figures are not that impressive outside in the West, where most of the Romanian diaspora lives, but they're expected to beat the figures that we had 2 weeks ago. So we're
You're
anticipating,
talking about turnout. You're talking
yeah,
about turnout.
turnout. Yeah, we're expecting a bigger turnout both in the country and outside. And
Let me ask you about, because you're referring to polls there. How confident are we in polling? Because we saw when Georgescu ran in November, everything was upside down. How confident are you in the polling here in Romania now?
No, we're not. And there's a reason why we're not. Because as we have seen in the last elections, people who voted for Simeon were a bit reluctant to tell pollsters their story, to tell pollsters on what they voted for, who they voted for.
You mean
And
Georgescu?
yeah,
Yeah,
not Georgescu, but Simeon. Also
yeah,
Georgescu, but Simeon, the first round, most of the Georgescu votes were not polled because people were a bit ashamed. They feel like there's a social pressure in not voting for Simeon coming from the elites, let's say, and
mhm,
they didn't feel like telling that to the pollsters, but
yeah.
they still voted because this
Now
is
you
yeah,
mentioned there, sorry, Luchan, the thing about France and what happened with Macron.
yeah.
Stepping back, would you say this is the most decisive election since whatever? I mean, people like to say that about elections, but how vital, how important is this election?
Well, it's as important as our GDP, as our direction, economic stability, freedom of speech. It really encompasses most of of the things we earned when we fought for in the last 35 years. We are not expecting good news should Mr. Simeon become president because Aoud is coming with a whole lot of list of Belarus type of adjustments to the social life of Romania. They have blacklists with people that went to school in America or were being sponsored by Soros Foundation. They want to curtail and they actively complain to the electoral commission, to the courts. They took people to courts for voicing journalists for voicing their opinions against them. So this is not. They're not fighting for freedom, in my opinion. I think they're striving to get a sort of regime that will be very close to the liberal regime of Mr. Orban in Hungary.
Right. Now,
Yeah.
you mentioned Orban as an example, and you
Yeah.
mentioned these menacing consequences. Then why does he appeal so much? Why did he get 40% of the vote on the first round? What is it?
Well, so there are a few things to consider. First of all, Russian propaganda, which was coupled with local, homegrown extremist propaganda, was very successful. They used every pretext to advance their views. They complained about people wearing masks during the pandemic. Then they fought against vaccines with quite a bit of success. Romania's vaccine rate is only 30% compared to almost 80 in France. Let's say it's a lot. It's a lot worse than the United States, where I understand it's around 60%. So they had success because they appealed to lesser educated people who feel like the new growth and the new Romania is really not for them. It's not really helping them. It's not really improving their lives, and they have this grudge against most of the people who they perceive to be successful. And this is what these guys came in. They tell people, they tell regular folk, they told people who are not really happy with their lives that they have an enemy, and that enemy is to be blamed for their lack of success in life. And that enemy is composed of the elites, the politicians, all the politicians, most of them. And here I agree with them. Politicians are not the best thing we have in the country. The old political class. This is something that everybody complains about, not just the extremes. And they told them that, listen, we can return to the type of Romania, and now you can feel the flavor of MAGA, the type of Romania we used to have back in the good old golden days of Romania. But this is not America. So the good old days that they hearken back to, they pine for, are the communist days where everything was in the public property. Everything was belonged to the nation. That's why they're talking about nationalization. And everything was under control. And when they're talking about control is, I don't think they're talking about freedom. The control.
I see. I mean,
Yeah,
you were making you know the United States pretty well, Luchan. You go there.
kind
And
of.
to some extent, it seems to me a little bit like a Reagan phenomena that the elites in the United States, so-called elites that live on the coast, who benefited from the wealth, made the decisions, set the tone with the media, and so on.
Yeah.
And the people in the middle thought they were getting the short end of the stick, basically. Is that essentially what's happening in Romania?
It's that too, but this is exaggerated by the propaganda. I mean, they are not doing that bad compared to their neighbors to the east, compared to Belarus, compared to Russia, even compared to Republic of Moldova. Regular folk are living a better life than they used to 10, 15 years ago. GDP is 6 times better than it was during the communist times. Our average income is it's growing every year. Most of the people do feel there's a better life, but they've been convinced that it can be even better, and that somebody steals their hopes and sometimes their money from them. And that is the old political class, and the solution is to, get the extremists in power, because they're gonna drain the swamp.
Yeah, I mean, it's a little like what that Trump was saying about Washington.
Yeah.
People on draining the swamp and stuff. Is there a feeling of anti-Americanism, and do you feel his anti-Americanism, like you said, anti-Frenchism, if you will?
Well, it depends who you ask for. These guys, the supporters of Simeon, they're not anti-American. Ever since Trump came into power,
Yeah.
They were never pro-American. They switched to being a little bit more pro-American because of what Trump did. And because of the extremists actually actively associating themselves with Trump and with the figures of the alt media in the United States. We saw
Yeah.
Mr. Simeon giving interviews to, I don't know, was it Steve Bannon? I think it was another guy, Nafal, very shady figure. So they see their guys going to America and preaching there and being greeted as in many places as heroes, and they kind of feel like, oh, this is good. I mean, this guy. They don't know
Yeah.
who Bannon is. Okay,
Yeah.
so for them, it's but this is a big American host.
Yeah. I
Um,
mean, people were saying about Georgescu, in addition to that, we talk about right-wing sort of impulses that exist in the Trump camp, if you will, and
mhm.
certainly in the Siemescu camp. Is there also an anti-Semitic strain? They said that of Georgescu. Is that applied to Simeon? Is that just rankly unfair?
I don't feel at times because of their most not most but some of the supporters do have some sort of let's say weakness for the legionnaire past of the country. The legionnaire
Yes.
party was the Nazis of Romania back in the 40s, 30s, and 40s. So they would use anti-Semitic slurs sometimes, and of course, they part of their paraphernalia of lies includes the conspiracies about Jews running the world. Of course, they do that, but that's marginal. Nowadays, it's a lot more like, PSD and the liberals and the elites in Bucharest, they're crushing your souls and taking your money. It's not anti Semitism because also
So
there's
not the rank anti-Semitism that accused Georgescu.
no,
No,
these guys are not that rabid. Uh,
I
yeah.
In respect, you're talking about the faults or the shortcomings in your view of Simenescu. The detractors of Dan Nicolaou say that he doesn't connect to the public, he's not presidential. But to what extent are the voters who vote for the mayor of Bucharest simply voting because he's not Simenescu?
Well,
To what
yeah.
extent is that the case?
Some of the critics are right. He does not connect very well. He is not the best speaker on a stage. Actually, I've been to last week. I've been to one of his meetings, one of these large gatherings in Bucharest, and there were a few other speakers on stage a lot better than him at rallying the crowd.
Yeah.
But this is who he is. He's not the hero that does a TikTok video every 2 minutes. He is a person who is more interiorized, let's say. He is more, I would rather say, profound. And people have grown accustomed to him. Now, there are other people who really want a leader to be a lot more, warrior on a white horse. And for them, he's weak. He's not what it takes. But for many others, it's not just that he's not Simeon. They kind of like him for who he is. He was an Olympic in mathematics. He
Yeah.
he went to France for his studies. He got a doctorate at Sorbonne. This kind of sounds nice for Romanians who understand what that is and what kind of mind power it takes for that.
Yeah, I see. If you go to the list of things that you said could happen if Simeon gets into power, you said there are things that have popped up that he would nationalize OMV. One
Well,
of his
they
the
they
well,
allude to that.
mhm.
There's not a clear direction. We will do that. What they say is very general. The riches of Romania should belong to the people. Now, what do you make of this? You can take this into you can turn this into anything, into any kind of legislation.
Nationalization,
Yeah,
communism.
whatever. Or you could just do nothing and tell people, "Hey, we're in power. We got it. We got your back. All riches are now under our control. You don't have to do anything, and we don't have to do anything." So they have My take is that they have leeway in terms of policy. They can do basically anything because they haven't promised much. Their
Could they,
promises, yeah, their promises are very vague, very nationalistic, and they're mostly. It's mostly. I'm not. I don't feel like using bad words in a conversation,
yeah,
but the words that you normally beep on a radio transmission, that's their promises.
yeah, I see.
Yeah.
This characterization of being a soccer hooligan, is that a bit exaggerated? Some people say he's much brighter than that, and some people say he's far
Uh,
wider than that, and maybe he's modified his tone or what he said in the last few weeks, but it seems like he's up and down on that.
Well, he can be anybody, actually. I went to a business meeting, Romanian
Yeah.
Business Leaders, which is an umbrella group of various organizations of entrepreneurs in Romania. And he told them that he very much cherishes private capital and he loves entrepreneurs. And he told those guys everything that they wanted to hear. Funny thing, I talked to them afterwards, nobody believed him.
I
Um,
see.
People don't believe at least people who don't vote for him, they don't believe him anymore because he tells different things to different audiences, but he's not consistent. He can tell one thing in the morning and another one in the afternoon
Right.
because they've got different. He is desperate, really. I have not seen such lust for power in the last 35 years. Really, I did not. This is the first
Yeah.
guy that actually looks and feels desperate to grab power.
Does it make sense, or can we believe him when he says he wants to appoint Călin Georgescu as a prime minister?
I'm not believing him. Whatever he says, I'm not believing. So you take it at face value or not. I don't know.
Yeah.
I have no idea. There's absolutely no certainty with this guy.
You said earlier that Russian propaganda, has, interfered here in Romania.
Yeah.
But has he toned down his affection for Moscow, or how blatant is it? What does he say about that?
Well, he never actually um, um, positioned himself as a friend of Putin. Never. And this is the modus operandi for most of the nationalists in Eastern Europe that are actually consolidating Putin's power in this region. Because they know it's the same thing in Romania, same thing in Poland, let's say. They know that people do not like Russian propaganda. They do not like the Russians, and they do not like the fact that the Russians have this tendency of overextending their empire and curtailing other people's liberties.
Yeah.
But aside from that, aside from professing, forever love for Putin, he doesn't do that. He takes a lot of weapons from the arsenal of Russian propaganda. I mean, the extreme right in Romania was built on Russian propaganda. I would say that Russian propaganda was for the extreme right in Romania what air support is for an army that advances. Russia provided air support. They bombarded the positions of people who kind of believed in truth and tried to stand firm and, pushing the idea of you need to prove whatever you're saying. And they bombarded it with lies. And on the ground, they had these troops of extreme conspirators and lunatics that slowly took over the communications field, the battlefield of words and emotion. This is what he did.
Yeah, so they're influencing in a not so subtle way, but they're there. I want
Yeah,
the
and
diaspora for a second.
yesterday in France,
Yeah.
I can sum it up with a French commentator telling Simeon on air, you profess your distrust or you don't say you like Putin, but you are using all Putin's arguments. And this is what they do. Yeah.
Right. On the question, we're talking about unlikely voters, people who didn't vote last time. I know people around me
Yeah.
who said they're going to vote this time.
They're
But
going
how
to show
about
up.
outside? That's a very big question, the diaspora. Why do I get the feeling that the people in the country, I've been going around the country a lot lately, There are more Simeon voters than you'd expect, and as you said, so they don't always say. But why does the diaspora, why do they seem to be voting more heavily for Simeon?
Well, funny thing is, diaspora is some of it, part of it, is not happy with being there. Most of them are not integrated. Most of them still culturally live in Romania. They only consume cultural products made in Romania, television, music. Well, I wouldn't say books. Okay, that would be a stretch. But
Yeah,
they emigrated, but mentally they stayed in here. And when they're there, they kind of feel the pinch every day of this non-integration. They don't feel like they belong there. Some of them feel humiliated by the people in their adoptive country. Some of
yeah,
them just feel that they didn't have enough success and they blame that on the West. And also,
right.
there are things in the West that they don't like and they would like to change it. And here comes from Romania this guy that says, "You are the slaves of Europe." And they say,
Yeah,
"Well, maybe I am because I'm not
yeah.
happy here.
Mhm.
I'll
Should,
vote for this guy." You know?
yeah, and yeah, are the majority of the diaspora, in your view, from what you've seen, going to vote for Simeon?
Yeah, I think so. But there's going to be a close call.
Do you
It's
think they should have the right to vote? Living,
55 to 45, I would say. This is my prediction: 55 for
yeah,
Simeon, 45 for Nikushor, maybe something like that.
I see.
They should
And
be, yeah, uh,
should they be allowed to vote, in your view?
of course.
Yeah, I
These
see.
they are part of our nation, and no matter how wrong they are, they're part of our nation, and we have to live with that. I don't
Right.
think we should exclude anybody from the Romanian nation.
The U.S., all these former U.S. ambassadors wrote a letter that was published and
Yeah,
widely
yeah.
seen, basically saying it's a choice between Putin and the U.S. and Europe on the other side and the
Hmm.
values on the side. Is that how the Romanians see it?
Well, no. The six signatories, I think they did a lot of compromise work because half of them were Republicans, half of them are Democrats, and the final thing, the final letter, in my opinion, does not exactly tell you who they like and who they think represents democracy in Romania. It's very general. It's like it would be better for tomorrow not to rain because we have crops, and that'd be nice if we had a little bit of sunshine, and that's about it. If you read it and you don't know anything about what's happening in Romania right now, you would say, who are these guys voting for? Who are they telling us to vote for? Or who do they
Right.
expect us to vote for? And who do you think who do they think that will be a better choice for Romania? It's not really evident. Of course, they say keep the course, stay with the West, stay with NATO and everything. Yeah, but Simeon right now he says he wants to stay with NATO and EU. So
Yeah.
that applies to
How
him
many,
too. Yeah.
Lucian, I know you got to go in a little bit. I have
Yeah.
a question. How the
I can do
Romanians,
another 10 minutes if there are
okay.
questions. Yeah.
Okay, sure. In Hungary, it seems that the Hungarians have it both ways. They're sort of pro-Putin, and they're sitting in the House of Europe as well. Do you think a
Yeah.
lot of Romanians think, well, if that can work in Hungary, maybe it can work in Romania? You can have a government that kind of likes Putin and gets along with him, and also you're still in an EU country.
Well, I have two things to say here. Why would you like Putin? Why? He didn't do anything good for Russians. He attacked another country, and his propaganda is spilling lies all over the globe. Why would you like such a person if you're a sane and regular, normal, level-brained person? There's no
Yeah.
reason to like Putin. Absolutely no reason. Not as a person nor as a country. Second, Hungary is not doing that well. I mean,
Mhm.
it's the lack of democracy is being felt in the business world in Hungary. There's a group of people around Mr. Orban that allegedly control parts of the business. And when there's no competition, when there's no real competence in running businesses, the country's not gonna go. The economy is not gonna do so well, and it doesn't. Uh, we have overtook, I think, Hungary maybe 2 years ago in terms of GDP per capita. Romania, and we started like minus 40%
Yeah.
20 years ago. That
Yeah.
is absolutely insane. Orban is not progress for Hungary.
Tell me this, you were talking about some of the dangers to Simeon coming to power, and I know that he's put together a list of potential advisors or, ministers or whatever else. Of what you've seen, of the things that the names he put out there, can you be more specific about what you personally feel is a threat to Romania as we see it today?
Well, I cannot tell who's going to run what minister because
Yeah,
there are a
like
few
Gheorghe
names.
Pipera for
Yeah,
the national.
Gheorghe Pipera is the RFK of Romania, let's say. This he fought the curfew during the pandemic. He fought vaccines, as far as I remember. He fought banks at some point, saying that they treat the customers badly. He fought foreign banks. He's a nationalist. Does he have competence to run anything? I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't trust it very much. I don't trust that very much. Um, I'm not so sure that, on the other hand, that he is going to be running any minister or that we are going to have early elections. We do not know yet. But as far as I know, they're not real. If I look at the list of potential ministers, alleged list, because I have no idea if
Yeah.
that's true, I don't see people that I would expect to have both integrity and competence there. And when I'm talking competence, I'm talking real schools attended, real diplomas, real businesses run until now, any track record that you can think about that would qualify them to run more than 2 or 10 people.
And in the Dan Ikushore camp, from the names that you've seen and people who might get positions, I mean, you gave a overall benign, positive view of a former mathematician, a competent, it seems, mayor who wasn't in trouble, who wasn't part of the old political class as you were. Did you see any indication why a sensible person would vote for Dan right now?
Well, mainly because they're afraid of what Aur and Simeon might bring to the table. They
Yeah.
have no idea what to expect, but what they heard is something that they don't like. And
Right.
I'm gonna give you a phrase that I read online, and it was I don't and I'm sorry I don't remember who said it, but
Yep.
he said something like this: I would very much prefer that Nicușor Dan does not do anything out of his promises, does not fulfill most of his promises, than to have Mr. Simeon fulfill his.
I see. Well, Luca, do you have any questions queued up there?
One of the questions that we received was, can you say something positive about Mr. Simeon? And can you also say what are some of the criticisms about Nicușor Dan?
Okay, good question.
Okay. Well, a positive thing is that he is very earnest. He works a lot. He's very good at manipulating technical equipment to go on air. He was very tech savvy, and he was very early on very recently launched platforms like TikTok. He is very adept at technology and at reaching people. Also, compared to USR, the party that Mr. Nicușor Dan
Yep.
founded a few years back, they are Aur is working a lot more in terms of engaging people all across the country. Maybe because they are like regular folk compared to the USR, which looks more like urban, educated, hipper kind of people, which I don't think they feel very comfortable with among peasants in a farm. So he is hardworking at spreading his message, and it has been like that for many years. Criticism for Nicușor, yeah, of course. He until recently he never took public speaking classes. He never came until the last month, let's say. he was very slow in coming to in working. Let's say I'm a media trainer, so I do this for companies. When you
Yeah.
go into an event, you go with a message box. You go with the first most 50 more important questions that people might ask you, and you have a very witty and interesting soundbite on anyone, on any of them. Nikushor didn't have that in the beginning. Now he's getting better better support from his team, but when he started, it was nothing like that. There was nothing that you could quote him, you know? And this is essential in politics, being able to say something on the likes of one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind, or don't ask yourself what you can do for your country, or what your country can do for you. Ask yourself what can you do for the country. This is the type of message that sticks to people's minds, and he never had such a thing. Instead, what he has right now is the fact that for most people, he seems like a benign, good guy.
Yeah. And as I have a feeling you're saying also that Simeon has the heat a little bit. Campaigns go through
Oh, yeah.
various phases.
Yeah.
What do you do on that in the last 48 hours?
Well, because few things. He called Nikushor autistic. And as you can imagine, he used this word as a slur. Now, the organizations that are fighting for autistic people, autistic kids in Romania, went berserk, rightfully so. Also, he went to France and bad-mouthed France, President
Bad-mouthed,
Macron.
yep.
That was very bad. That was very bad. He went to, I don't remember the show. He went to an American podcaster and said, it's very good that the Trump administration decided to walk back on visa-free travel for Romanians. And most Romanians I know consider that something that you shouldn't say about your own country. Maybe you believe that. And by the way, he said that good for Trump. That was a very good warning for Romanians, because they annulled the second round of the elections back in November. But you don't mouth your country like that. You know,
Yeah.
it's something that we all feel appalled, including me, at him, using and talking trash about Romania on such a public stage, even though, he
sorry, go
believed
on.
that. Yeah.
In respect to a question that should be on a person's mind, whether they're a Simeon supporter or not, what is a Simeon supporter, and when he casts his vote, what question is he answering? What is he tear the house down, or what is he trying to say with his vote?
I'm quoting the Simeon voter right now. I'm sick of all of you running Romania for 35 years. I want to have somebody else, no matter who that guy is.
Right. And what's the vote, and what's the question that you think Romanian voters should be asking as they walk into the polling booths on Sunday?
Am I doing the smart thing?
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Anyways, Lucian, I want to thank you for that. It's very interesting.
Thank you,
You're well
John.
clued into this situation. You always have a perceptive view on the thing, and you're deep into it. And
I want to apologize for people who might feel like I've been unfair to Simeon. And it's probably true. I am not fair. I am a journalist, but besides that, I'm a human being. I have 3 kids, and I hope all of them will be able to live free in Romania. And this is personal for me too. So besides from being a journalist or an analyst or whatever you might think I'm doing right now, I'm a voter, and I'm a person that does not want to see this country run by extremist nationalists or by Putin stooges.
Right. Good, Lucian. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. I know how busy you are, and it was very instructive. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.